And thank you very much for joining us, and we hope we have a fantastic and enlightening experience at Code Dive 10th Anniversary Edition. And right now, allow me to introduce our next speakers, Wojciech Plan and Wojciech Maciantowicz. Wojciech Plan is an empowering leader with 20+ years experience. He's heading Nokia Mobile Networks sales configuration and data management topics globally since 2015. He's passionate about people and technology that brings them opportunities, creating data-driven company ecosystem in the never-ending pursuit of operational quality, automation, and efficiency, meeting people and new cultures and discovering places near and far. He also studies ancient history and its learnings. Wojciech Maciantowicz, he is a project owner in Mobile Networks Nokia. He has a software developer background with many different areas and solutions. Currently, Wojciech is leading a team of developers who are working on sales configuration project for a Nokia product. One of the features implemented on the tool is an AI-based engine which will speed up and simplify configuration process. Whole solution was designed and developed by his team from scratch. In his private time, Wojciech is passionate about triathlon and ultra runs. Wojciech, the stage is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Remigiusz, for introducing me. Warm welcome to everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today. Today I'm gonna share with you some of the insights I gained in working, among other things, on product configurators over 15 years, working in this space, among other things. So after this, I will share you how to address your product configurability, what are the solutions you may apply, what are the choices you should be making when selling configurable product, why none of these choices is ideal for very complex product that sell with high volumes, and why we think generative AI is the way to go. Now, geez, I haven't had this big PowerPoint in my life. All right, so this, don't mind, where these products are. There is this configuring complexity in the function of volume, and this is a consideration you have to make when making a decision about your product configurability. For instance, a very easily configurable product, like a watch. This can maybe have a couple of straps, couple colors of bezel or casing. This is, maybe you can not make it a configurable product at all. This might be, just a couple models that you break it down to models and you don't configure this product. However, as the number of options grow, and I have seen recently Casio came up with 120 new watch models. Turns out this was one watch, just different colors of bezel, casing, strap. And so this approach has some limits. Now, if you sell windows, this need dimensions. You cannot escape this nature of the thing, so you have to configure, the dimensions at least, materials. Now, there are some products that are extremely complex, but you might not want them being too configurable, like airplanes. With configurability and the number of options comes the challenge of testing all these options, and when safety comes into play, planes like 737, it has a couple of models, like 400, 800. Then the configurability is there, and every plane is different for, in terms of number of rows, how they are spaced, types of the seats. You all from Ryanair, for instance, so you know this difference. but you don't. So when you address such a product, you have to also take this considerations into account. Now, probably one of the most complex configurators available for in the retail business, this is for cars. And cars come with many different options, and this selling volumes. You have to manage this complexity. There are products, and this is a complexity of the thing. Yeah, there are products like professional software. You might think it is not that complex to configure, although I have seen in my life, and this is, when you do it for the also how having in mind how to monetize this business, you might think of different parameters of the configuration. So you don't sell a software as a one piece. You sell licenses for active users. You sell licenses for volume of transactions between the server. All different things. I have seen extremely complex configurators just for a piece of software, and you might want to do it to increase your upsell on the software licenses. You might want to do it to give you a flexibility to price it differently for different customers. So all the big ones in the world do this. You might have different matrices for pricing. So software, by the nature of the thing, might be easy. You might want to make it consciously configurable. Before I move on, I have a question to you. How many of base stations, these things that makes our phones work, how many of those there are in the entire world? Tens of thousands, anyone? No? Hundreds of thousands? Thousands and thousands? Millions? Millions, anyone? Okay. Tens of millions? All right. The good answer is, as with most things in life, depends how you count them, logical, physical, but let's settle on millions, all right? So, and keep that in mind. So, as we move on, some of the most complex, yet still in fairly, sold in numbers, so you need a configurator. The automation of the production lines, all kinds of robotic cranes. These are extremely complex, not so high volumes, again. But what is the, the question mark there? Anyone guess? Yeah, that's our base station. Yeah, millions of those and hundreds of thousands shipped from single supplier or just a couple suppliers in the world, and extremely configurable. I will talk about it a little bit in a moment. Now, what are the configuration approach that we may have to the product we have? Now, we can, if something is either, very simple, or you are not selling this in high numbers, then you can approach it manually. How it is done in practice? You just have a documentation, sales configuration guides, this type of things. So you hand out to your sales, and they work with customers in very specialized business and of a small scale. In a small scale, this can work as long as you have full control on, what your sales are having at the moment, and as long as it is moderately low complexity. Then, especially when you're a big enterprise or you're selling at a scale, a simple CPQ solution, and CPQ now comes from tens, if not hundreds, of vendors. They serve this simple configuration capabilities very well. They can address also medium configuration. You have a central repository. You know exactly what rules are applied uniformly around the world to configure your product. Now, what to do when you have really a complex product? And most of the time you learn it by heart, because you come to the deployment of the CPQ solution, and after the product gets too complex, the solution is not able to handle it anymore. And then you go into customizations, and this might not be enough. So this is, for this most complex product that you want to configure at scale, you need to customize the CPQ out of the box. And again, there are companies in the world that specialize in that and have, do the external coding on top of the CPQ from major vendors in the world. And you can make it work. I've seen it work for some of this really complex product areas. Not for all, though. And other things fail. And OK, this is not a solution for everyone, because this involves a lot of development, and you may just maybe apply it at bigger enterprises. But you might want to build your own configurator, your own software to configure. And for this most complex products, you might want to consider, especially giving doing the business case calculation. This can pay off in mid to long term. So, however, and I will talk again about in a moment how not any one of this is ideal for very complex products. Hence, the ultimate solution would be this AI-based, and we'll talk, and Wojciech, about it, how you can make it happen. Now to our base station. So what makes it so complex? Well, for the starter, you have, as an input, you have your customer requirements. And this ranges from what kind of frequency band it is, which technologies are supported, how many subscribers, active subscribers, what are the traffic profiles, what people use in a certain area, what software features should be turned on in given area. A lot of considerations, how the internet is fed, is it microwave radio, is it optics? So turns out with all this hardware, software, installation options you have on the input side, you have well over 100 parameters, and imagine how hard it is to configure, even with configurator. Sometimes more, more than 150 or even more. And all this input parameters are interdependent. So to make certain number of subscribers, being able to utilize certain different set of features. So you need the rules, and this is our configuration model. You need the rules, and there are constraints. How many cards, capacity cards you can put into frames, all kinds of considerations that have to be made to eventually come up with the bill of material. And bill of material is a selection of maybe 200-300 different pieces of software, hardware, licenses, services taken from the portfolio of possible 6,000 plus. So the big model that handles all these calculations rules can be several thousands of lines of code to make this working base station, which is by the way, this is not real base station. It's something the AI thinks it's a base station, and so it was generated. So with this big complexity, there are numerous challenges. And these challenges you can very well recognize as data quality challenges. So timeliness. Timeliness refers to the accuracy of the configuration in time. So in the enterprise business, working with telecom operators, but also in many other businesses, it takes sometimes months from the request for information, request for quotation, RFI, RFQ, to the final contract and order takes months, maybe years. And maybe you have heard, for how long the Polish railways are, working on getting GSMR. So this is like more than 10 years, and it's not happening still. So in time, the configuration loses. What is a proper configuration today is not a one that is in 3 months, because when you have this huge number of components to your product or solution, they progress in the life cycle. Hardware vendors start phasing out, phasing in new parts. Software gets new releases. So what is a correct configuration at the moment stops being correct configuration in 3 months, or even sooner. Can be overnight, depending on the life cycle of the product. Accuracy. Now, in the configurators, this depends on 2 things. How good your model that describes all these interdependencies between hardware, software, services, how good it is, but also it depends on how good the input is. And this input at the very beginning is very limited. So again, that's a challenge. Completeness. Now, I'll give you a very, very simple example. So there are these numerous features you want to have on a certain site. And these features you only know once you know exactly where the sites are. Again, so this is, you might not have this information, you might not have some information about the frequencies because, I don't know, the operator doesn't yet know which frequency he has because he haven't, the auction haven't finalized yet. So, and in every business, you might not have all the inputs, so the completeness of your configuration might not be there. And last but not least, the relevance. So when you are just starting your journey with the customer, you don't really need this, nitty-gritty details. How many of these mountings and cables you need the core of the configuration to make rough calculations on your, on your costs, on your possible margins, on your business case. So some of the data you might be getting as an output might not be relevant. And so this is this journey that, in the context of product configurator, you're having with your customer. You start with offering something, and this is very early on. You might be addressing a customer that is a T-Mobile in US, and all your input is you are only maybe bidding for 20% of the United States, and that's it. That's all you know. And only as the negotiation progresses, you might get to know that you will be installing your base stations in Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, and as this progresses, you get to cities of Nashville, Dallas, and certain highways and certain parts of certain states, and then this is where your input is getting more concrete. Now, why this is important? Because there is, when you model this into a piece of software, you model this on a set of input parameters. If you have a generative AI, in the background, you might be getting narrower scope, less details in at the beginning, and as your number of details that you are giving to the configurator progresses, so progresses the quality of the output. So this is one of the things that makes this better suitable for configuring than traditional approaches. Now, as you progress to contracting, you have to have, again, pretty good details in place, but only after, in the telecom business, you physically get to space, get to see where you're going to install, what are the physical conditions on the ground. You might have all the software requirements, feature requirements in place, but only after you get to the place, you know exactly what are you dealing with, what kind of services are required, what kind of cables, what kind of equipment, what kind of fixtures. And this is, when this, only after that the order may happen. But why delivery is still separate? Oh, well, it might be that, again, this configuration that you are basing off, it's not the right configuration anymore. The time has passed. Some of the hardware has been replaced by a new one, and you don't manufacture the old one anymore. So you have to, again, do this configuration before you end up with delivering the entire solution or a complex product, however you want to name it. That is your final solution. So what I want you to take from this, three things. The product configuration, there are many ways you may want to address it. There are conscious choices you want to make, whether to make it more or less complex. And if it is complex by the nature of the matter, how to address it correctly, and which solution to take. I believe none of these solutions is ideal in the complex products case, and we believe AI is the way to go. Now handing over to Wojciech, who will be showing us more details about it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wojciech. Welcome. So AI, it's a very broad topic. So in this presentation, I will just touch the surface of it. But what I want you to take out of it is three things. So the AI is present in our life today and will be more and more in the future in our daily tasks and our daily business. And we don't have to be afraid of it because it's not bad or good from its nature. It's like with the nuclear power, it depends how we use it. And we should use it. We should use it to our daily task, to simplify it and to make our life much easier and these tasks much faster than before the AI era. Okay, but let's start with some theory. I have a question. Did anyone knows what the Chinese room experiment is about? Okay, I see some of you know, so let me refresh this knowledge. So the Chinese room was presented by John Searle in the 1980, and it's assumed that we have two persons, let's call them Laura and John. Laura is Chinese-speaking person, and John doesn't know Chinese at all, and John is locked in a room and communicate with Laura with a piece of paper, and the paper is providing with the small hole. And Laura is providing a message to John, and she thought that John will understand it, but John doesn't understand it at all. But John has a table, so database, where he has some input and the information what should be provided as the output. And he compare the input with this with the table, and write back the response on the same piece of paper, and provides Laura back. And Laura thinks that John is well Chinese speaking person, but it's not true because John doesn't understand it at all. And let's assume that we will replace John with some computer. So the computer will get some information in the input, compare it with the table, with the data that he has, and provide the output which will be relevant to this, what he gets in input. So that's the general overview how the artificial intelligence works. Okay, so let's describe it, let's dive a little bit deeper. So the AI, the artificial intelligence, is meant to simulate the behavior of human brain. So basically it should work similar that human brain does. And it's a, let's call it a tuple layer. But we have also something we can call subclasses, which is the machine learning. And machine learning is the bunch of algorithms that are provided to collect the data, and based on this data, provide some predictions and make some decisions. But not only the scripts can also learn by this data and improve the functionality of this his functionality. So as an example, we can provide here the customized playlist or the customized content that we get, for example, with the Google search. And we have also the deep learning. The deep learning works in neural networks. It can work with a big amount of data and can and it's meant to looking for a common pattern in this data or a common feature that are in this data. For example, the image classification. So the face recognition is a very common example of it. And all this ecosystem work together smoothly and provides and helps in our daily duties. Like, for example, the top example, the smart robotics vacuum, like Roomba. Roomba collects the information from the picture that he takes about the room, and then proceed with the path that will clean this room with the most efficient way. Okay, but the subject of this presentation is generative AI. So the generative AI is some kind of additional layer to this whole AI ecosystem. Once the AI was meant to help communicate people with computers in the more human nature, so like the chat, for example, and the things that are that people provide the information and the computer response. Generative AI is meant to provide some new content based on the information that is already available. So based on the data that the model is trained, and I guess that this way we will use so in the generative purpose we will use the AI more and more in the future. So because we will expect that the AI will do some work for us, will do something that we will do in the more time, but the generative AI will do this faster. Okay, so let's talk about this data now. So, and the configurators. How can we collect the data for the configurators? So we can start with the simply tagging configuration, and based on this tag, we can provide some description to these configurations, and based on this, we will have information what's in it. We can also gather the information from the settings that the user provides us during the configuration process. But as Wojciech mentioned, it's not always one-to-one, so we can also gather the information from the already deployed product, because they can be different. If so, then we will have additional information. If not, then we can skip it. And when we have this information and when we have the data to train the model, we can push the AI or push the engine to help us in our configuration process. So let's assume that the configurator or the AI engine will help us finish the configuration when we just put some of basic parameters, like, for example, let's take a car. So the user will provide the type of the car, the color, the engine, or the gearbox, maybe even the amount of seats, and the AI engine will fill out the rest of the parameters, like additional features that can be used in the car, and so on and so on. We can also prepare some configuration that can contain only a few key parameters that will describe this configuration or will describe the final product. Then the user will provide these key parameters, this value, and the AI engine will generate the rest of the configuration based on these key parameters. We can also train the model in that way that the user will only provide some requirements. For example, I want a car. And based on this and some other information that I will talk in a minute, this AI engine will be able to provide the user the full configuration. It, of course, cannot be perfect at each time, but it will be other opportunity to train the model. And what we can do to train the model and to make the model more better and better each time, so we can collect the data from the wider sources. I was mentioned about the configuration and the input that the user was provided, but that can be also the configuration that was already deployed. But not only, we can also comparing these two inputs, and based on this prepare the difference, and the next time the engine can prepare the configuration without this parameter that was changed. And this is the next point, that the engine will prepare and predict what can be changed in this configuration, and based on this generate the configuration that will be more perfect. And last but not least is the NLP. So we can use the natural language processing not only to gather the input, so based on the formula or just with the voice as the user will talk, but we can also gather the information with the processing the other sources, like the internet forms or the user manuals or the technical data sheets, and so on and so on. And based on this, we can build each time the more accurate response for the user requirement. By the way, I don't know if you know, the last week, I guess, one of the common network company was presented the new feature that allows user to configure their network just with the talking, so with the NLP processing. Okay, so let me share some information, some statistics about the AI, which is nowadays. So the AI business will grow because more than 90% of the companies here is already in ongoing process to invest in implement AI in their daily business, and 1/3 of the companies already have it. So it's assumed that in the next 3 years, more than 100 million people will work in AI sectors. But it's not something new because, it's not dangerous for us because those which use this AI engine now are, most of them are content and confirm that these AI engines improve their productivity. Also, the feedback from the other side, from the customer side, is positive because more than 70% is welcome the solution very well. And with the customer services or the chatbots or the customer desk that was implemented by the companies. But also the same amount of more than 70% are afraid of the AI technology, like the fake news, for example, or to provide not relevant information, and so on and so on. So that's pretty it. As you can see that the AI is presenting in our life, and it will be more and more in the next years. And we can use it in our purpose, in our to work them to do the things that we want, not just creating a fake news, but to creating also the good content. One thing at the end, I'm sure that you noticed that from my presentation there was a robotic pictures in all of them. So you're right, there are better and better one of it. And it was, they all was generated by the same prompt. So it was the robotic with the human face, with the human pose working on laptop. And there was also some negative prompt like not cartoon and some additional like not very sci-fi. So, but for generation, each of them I was used a different model. So the different model was trained by different bunch of data. And as you can see, for each of models we get better and better each time. Only for the last one I was also add C3PU to this prompt, and we get this what we have seen here. Thank you.
All right. So
Thank
now
you
we are looking for some questions, right?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for the presentation. And now is the time for the Q&A. So if you have any questions, then please raise your hands, and then yeah, you will be able to ask questions. Okay.
Hello.
Well,
I would like to ask a question about verifying whether the AI configuration which is provided to you, do you check it in any way? For example, if you tune some small parameters, then reapply the AI configuration and check whether you don't, I don't know, in case of, no, similarly to Monte Carlo analysis, for example, whether you check if it converges to some good solutions, for example, if you want to maximize profit or minimize costs or something like that.
Thank you very much. I'll take this one. So this is a very good question. I was not addressing this because product configuring is a very broad topic. But thank you for that question. This is when you create a model for your product, you obviously need to test it. And we use automated tests for that. Every time you do the change, you build your test case database, hundreds, thousands of test cases. You run them in the background all the time. You check whether the configuration is correct. So, because basically you run into huge costs if you either provide for that contract the wrong configuration, and so you may lose your margin. Or if you send the wrong configuration to the site, then it's a cost of sending back, delays, customer penalties. So obviously you have to very rigorously test it. In any case, you won't escape from it by bringing the AI. This is the nature of the configuration business. You have to build a good process around testing, automated testing. This is what we used exclusively recently. Is this answering your question? Thank you. More questions?
If you have any question, then please raise your hand. Okay, so thank you very much.
Feel free to catch me later on if you have some questions, so you can address them if you see me later. Thank you very much again.